In today's equity index futures markets, let's take a look at the NASDAQ 100 futures today as they're having a strong reversal day today, up about 1.9% on the day, currently right around the 10,670 level. And the top performing equity index futures market today, followed by the Russell, then the S&P 500 futures, and then the Dow futures were the weaker of the four major equity index futures markets today, although all four of them were higher on the day. Looking at some of the driving factors, I think first, you got to look at that rotation taking place, at least to start the week. After some weakness in the NASDAQ last week and the NASDAQ futures last week, we did see the tech sector take the lead today. Some of the bigger names bouncing back, and particularly when we look at semiconductor within that sector, the semiconductor area was a strong performer today, helping to support, I believe, the NASDAQ futures. Couple that with the government stimulus package that was announced over the weekend, probably a little bit bigger than what the market had anticipated late last week. So I think as they work through those negotiations this week, it does appear that maybe that package is going to be a little bit more robust than initially anticipated. And I think that's helping to support all the equity index futures markets today. And I think the other thing that I want to point out is the stay-at-home trade continues to work its way through the mindset within the markets. And we are seeing some of the stocks that gave up a little ground, as I mentioned last week. I think the longer this the COVID-19 pandemic continues to influence decision-making and certainly influence different structures within the market, now that we're seeing some cases flaring up in India and China once again, I think that stay-at-home trade mentality kind of comes back into the market psychology, and that's another factor, I think, helping the tech sector today. And when you look at some of the trends in place, I want to point out that earnings season is upon us, and this is going to be a big week for the NASDAQ, particularly in the NASDAQ index, when you got the AAAs announcing. And I say the AAAs, I talk about Alphabet, Amazon, and Apple all announcing earnings this week. So I think that's going to play into the pricing of the NASDAQ futures. Also, we're looking at this short-term downtrend last week. We did see 4 days of selling in the NASDAQ and reversing some of that today. So at least from a trend standpoint, a short-term reversal. We still got a little work to do to reestablish the uptrend, but this has been a good first step where we did see a higher low today, and then the NASDAQ futures finishing near the top end of the range for the day.